And this is one of the strangest HDR bug I ever encountered in a game, because during my testing, HDR just disappeared. So let's start from the very beginning. And one of the first things I'm doing when I'm testing HDR in games is to find out if the HDR system level calibration is working in this game. And in this case, we're talking about the PlayStation 5 version. So keep that in mind that maybe the Xbox version or PC version is different. But what I found is, regardless of how I set up the PlayStation 5 HDR menu, minimum setting, maximum setting, or the correct setting for my G2, I always had a maximum peak brightness in this game of around 800-900 candela. So there's no support for the HDR system level calibration, at least on the PlayStation 5. And I thought, hey, that's fine, because we have many games where the system level calibration is not supported, and we have actually settings in the game where you can set up HDR as you like it. But all what I found was actually a gamma setting, and what I experienced is that this gamma setting at this stage had no impact in the game, in the real gameplay at all. Just in the video files, in the sequences between the gameplay, I was actually to see a difference between the minimum and maximum value, but again, not during actual gameplay. And again, I was thinking to myself, that's not a big problem, because maybe this setting is really just for the video files and probably for SDR. So let's check out this. I disabled HDR on the PlayStation 5 in the menu. I closed the game, of course, and I restarted the game, and I loaded my save game, and I found now the gamma setting has actually impact on the picture. And of course, I recorded some SDR material, and I have to admit, I really do like the game, the actual gameplay, not the stuff where you talk to people, run around and watch some movie sequences, because I'm not a big fan of that. And to be very honest, I don't think that this is how Tony Stark should look like. Anyway, after finishing my SDR recording, I changed my PlayStation back to HDR, restarted the game, loaded the save game, and found something is a little bit weird, because first of all, it doesn't look like HDR. Even my TV told me it is now HDR, but something was wrong. And I found also that now the gamma setting is suddenly working in the game, which was not working before. So I did a little bit testing, and what I found is my maximum peak brightness right now is just limited to around 200 candela, which would actually tells me there's no HDR at all. This is just right now SDR in a HDR picture format. And then I was just thinking, hey, maybe you did something wrong. Let's check your settings. And I checked everything from my PC, from the PlayStation TV, everything. There was nothing wrong. I restarted the PlayStation, I rebooted my PC, I turned off and on my LG G2 and DCX, but still there was just SDR output in a HDR picture. And just to make sure nothing is wrong with my equipment, I just booted up Immortals Phoenix Rising, took a very quick screenshot and analyzed it, and I found, hey, everything is fine. Now I have HDR readings. What's going on? Jumped back into the game in this one here and found again just SDR. So the only solution or only thing what was left was actually deinstalling the game. And that's what I have done. I deleted the game, and also I erased all my save games, and I installed actually the game, and then I started a new game, and suddenly I had my HDR back. But at this stage I was not really convinced that this actually fixed my issue, because I needed proof. So what I have done is I did exactly the same as before. I disabled HDR, started the game in SDR, did a little bit gameplay, and then turned on HDR again. And again, no HDR at all. Until this point now, I have not found any solution to enable HDR in the game actually, other than deinstalling the game or erasing the save game. Maybe one of them will fix it, but I actually did not try it so far, to be very honest. But that's a very weird bug. The game is actually right now in a HDR picture format. That's what my TV is telling me. The PlayStation 5 is set to HDR but the real peak brightness in the game is just limited to SDR brightness, and you clearly can see this when you play the game as well. Specular highlights, and you can't even tell or call them specular highlights because they're just not bright enough, and yeah, it just, I don't know what to say. This is one of the weirdest HDR bugs I ever found. And that's actually really a shame, because if you do, like I did, some testing or comparison with SDR and HDR, and then you like to go back to HDR because HDR, if it is working, does look so much better in this game compared to SDR, in my opinion, because no black level rays, specular highlights just on a, I would say, above average level. So it is really nice to play in HDR. But if you test this game in SDR, I haven't found any way other than deinstalling or erasing save games to get HDR back. And I can just assure you, I'm not making this stuff up. I was just going to test this game for the best HDR settings, and that's the result. Buggy HDR. Don't get me wrong, it's actually not buggy. That's wrong, because again, if it is working, it is really one of the better HDR games in my opinion. But yeah, if it is gone, it is just gone. I was not able to get it back. So what I would like to see, actually, a couple of comments from you guys. If you maybe you own the Xbox version or PC version, and maybe you can put some information in the comment section if you experience the same issue. And of course, how do you like HDR in general? And also Xbox users, maybe put in the comment section if the HDR calibration for you on the Xbox is actually working for you in this game. Thank you very much. I think that's all for this game. I really do like playing the actual gameplay or actual game, not running around and talking to people. This was very, very weird. I don't like it at all, and I skipped all the dialogues, to be honest. But again, I mean, not a bad game, but weird.